How removing one bass line changed Prince's entire career.
When it came to recording. Whereas most musicians might spend days, weeks, maybe even months working on a song, Prince could record a song in a single night, which he did for When Doves Cry. But then, unusually he spent ages on mixing, taking nearly everything out that he just recorded, eventually even taking out the bass. From the outside, it looked like a recipe for disaster. But Prince had a different idea. Prince had just finished recording the album Purple Rain, which was the soundtrack for his first feature film.
We gotta, what, I don't know the deal with them. We gotta check out that too. Like Purple Rain, like was a movie too. Apparently, I thought it was a documentary about Prince, but I guess it was a movie starring Prince. I don't even know. Anyways, I wanted to check this out because removing one bass line changed his entire career. It just reminded me of that Kanye thing where it's like Kanye was in the studio with I think Timbaland, and like he was freaking out about like the 808s, like and Timbaland did like a minor change, and it made the whole song like pop or something. So anyways, that's why I wanted to watch this.
Director of the film, Albert Magnoli, called Prince and said they needed one more song about the difficulty of romance and family life.
I just like that obsession.
For Prince, this last-minute addition was no problem. Inspired to write a song reflecting his own parents' difficult relationship, he immediately went into Sunset Sound, his favourite studio in LA, and began preparing the studio. The next day, Prince returned.
Sunset Sound, in the last video we watched about Prince, that's where Stevie Nicks recorded that song with him, where he pulled up in like 20 minutes. She called him and then, or sent him a text or something, or I don't know if they texted, but she basically let him know. She's like, hey, I need you in this song, and I'm at Sunset Sound. I'm pretty sure it was the same studio.
And recorded the whole song in one single session. As usual, this saw him writing, producing, and recording all the instruments himself, with just one other person, his recording engineer, Peggy Mack. A lot of the Purple Rain album was actually recorded live with his band. He'd make some edits and record some overdubs later, but this final song, When Doves Cry, was Prince entirely on his own and free to experiment. He began with this, the Linn LM1 drum machine. The great thing about this drum machine is that it's sampled on real drums, but you can adjust the pitch of each sound. Couple this with a few interesting guitar pedals, and you can get something that sounds really unique.
Wait, so is this machine like kind of what separated Prince at the time from other people? Because I feel like one thing I was saying about older music is usually when you listen to a lot of older music, it's drums, a guitar, and singing, and maybe a bass guitar, right? At the very most, it's like 4 instruments. Nowadays, music's all synths, digital. Like people use Minecraft, like the Minecraft. I've heard the Minecraft door used in songs before in the background of songs. So people will sample anything. But was this like new? I guess like Prince doing this, and people were like, "Ew, that's not original. That's not real music. Those sounds are artificial." It's like the Red 40 of sounds, right?
Nostalgic Explorer has a great video recreating Prince's process of layering each drum sound one by one.
Or was this like already common?
After starting with the drum beat, he spent the session layering up many different instruments and sounds. Prince hadn't yet gained the iconic status that he has today, and he was getting more and more determined to prove himself as the great musician that he really was.
I also didn't know that too. Like I never really thought about that, but y'all were saying that like Prince was like controversial to listen to back in the day, that you had to listen to him, like y'all had to sneak out and hide the lyrics and hide the album cover or the vinyls under your bed and stuff. Like you couldn't let like your parents know you listened to him because it was just very controversial at the time. I never thought about that. Like I feel like today I'm conditioned to like think all this stuff is normal, but back then I guess Prince's music probably would have been like a little like people weren't ready for it.
Prince, it really bothered him too that he was underestimated as a guitar player, and I thought he was an amazing guitar player.
There was also a synth solo which was too difficult to play, so he played it half the speed and then doubled the speed of the recording. Over the 16-hour session, he added more and more layers, and in just one day, the song was finished. But something wasn't quite right. Prince wasn't happy with what he had. The following day, he returned to the studio with his engineer to mix the song, and he started taking elements out, stripping back all the layers he just recorded until it was down to a few key tracks. The great thing about recording so quickly is that you get to work in this beautiful state of flow, something Prince was a master at, and the reason why he was able to make so much music. But this mixing process sent him into a period of overthinking. Mixing went on.
Oh, this is a sick picture we paused on. He looks like Scarface, but of music. But that's like something I've noticed is like, this is like in sports too. This is one reason you'll see why a lot of times wrestlers like Russians will be a lot better than Americans at wrestling, because here in America we have like a different mindset when it comes to training. It's like 3 out of 7 days a week go super high intensity. And people in Russia and other places, like for sports and basketball too, that's why all these foreigners are beating us at basketball, that's not how they train. They train every single day. It's consistent, right? It's consistent. Instead of high intensity 3 days a week, it's mild intensity every single day. So they have much higher volume, much more reps, much more like time, familiarity, comfortability on the floor wrestling than we do. But I guess for creativity, like it probably is like way easier. I see a lot of rappers do that too. Like they'll just kind of, do what they got to do to get in that zone, and then get in the booth and just stay in there forever and make a whole bunch of songs, and then kind of work on the songs afterwards, take things out, polish them up and stuff. But they'll like make the majority of their music or creative work in one session when they get in that flow state, because it's like, it's not, you can't just flip a switch and turn that flow state on, that creative space. You kind of have to like work your way in there. So when you're in there, it's best to stay in there as long as you can. And
days with Prince taking out different sounds and eventually deliberating over whether or not to include the bass. It was just sounding too conventional, like every other song with drums and bass and keyboards. If I could have it my way, it would sound like this, without the bass. But removing the bass isn't the same as taking out most other instruments. The bass is the foundation of harmony. It's the link between harmony and rhythm, and it's also the instrument that supplies most of the lower frequencies. It was session vocalist Jill Jones who eventually told Prince, "Why don't you just have it your way?"
He kind of unproduced it, if you can possibly do that. And then the last thing he did is he punched that bass out, and he smiled at me and he said, "Ain't nobody gonna believe I do this."
And so, the song was finished without a bass. And despite being the final song recorded, it became the lead single from Purple Rain. From the outside, it looked like Prince was crazy. But there was a reason why it became so successful. First of all, it does kind of work to take the bass out. It allows for more space in these lower frequencies, and because he was using the LM1 drum machine, he could make use of this space anyway. He also used the machine on his following album, which did include bass, but if we take the bass out, you can hear that there is a bit more space. Although Raspberry Beret was a single, it didn't make it to number 1.
Oh, look, you don't hear the difference.
If we take the bass out, you can hear that there is a bit more space. Although Raspberry Beret was a single, it didn't make it to number 1. But Prince took out the bass again for another song, Kiss, and guess what? This did go to number 1. So what is it that's so special about not having a bass? The problem was that in the early to mid-80s, Prince had a problem. Because music was heavily categorized and segregated, so you were either a funk artist, an R&B artist, or a pop artist. And Prince didn't like this because radio stations, and now MTV, would only play music within a certain category, and your music was expected to fit within these boundaries.
I listened to all kinds of music when I was young. And when I was younger, I always said that one day I was going to play all kinds of music and not be judged for the color of my skin, but the quality of my work.
By removing the bass, a key element of funk music, Prince was able to show that his music didn't need to fit within the confines of what people expected of him. Coupling this with a feature film which showed another side to his creativity and with a varied soundtrack, Prince was able to break through from being seen as just a funk artist. But there's one final piece to this puzzle. Thanks to the Purple Rain film, When Doves Cry featured a controversial and iconic music video, which was a key element of the song's commercial success, thanks to the launch of MTV just a few years earlier. Everything about this song shouldn't have worked. Prince had never acted before, the director had never directed before, and Prince was a funk artist who had just made a song with no bass. But actually, by breaking the rules and doing something a little bit different, all of these elements came together perfectly, and Prince established himself as a pop culture icon.